The Chicago Bears have been making their way through that pro day circuit. Plus, they've brought on 2 new additional staff members. And in addition to that, a new Bears coach has put a high profile player from last season, a starter, on notice. Keep it locked. What's going on, Bears fans, and welcome back to an all-new episode of CHI Go Bears. As always, I'm your host, John Jay, and today, ladies and gentlemen, I'm a solo act. But I hope y'all stick around and enjoy yourselves because we're going to learn a thing or two about what's been going on this offseason to this point. But we're just going to go and get right into it. We ain't gonna waste too much time since, like I said, I'm a solo act today. But the Chicago Bears, like I said, have been on that pro day circuit this week. They've attended quite a few, and some notable ones have been the Texas Pro Day, the Ohio State Pro Day, Michigan, and Boise State. So I just want to take a moment to go over some of the possible names that they could have been looking at this pro day, some possible candidates for this year's draft. At Texas, one of the names, Kelvin Banks Jr., offensive tackle. Another name, wide receiver, Matthew Golden. And Jahdae Barron, a cornerback, who I think is a potential guy that the Bears could be looking at. Now, Matthew Golden, probably not as much, but wide receiver is a possibility for these Bears. So I wouldn't count that out. But I think Matthew Golden will probably be going a little higher than where the Bears would probably take a wide receiver, but we shall see. But in addition to that, Alfred Collins, defensive tackle, who is a name that I do like for the Bears. Cameron Williams, offensive tackle, who is a name that I'm kind of so-so on. Then there's Isaiah Bond, wide receiver, who is a flat-out burner, ladies and gentlemen. And then Andrew Mukuba, safety. This is another player that I like. He's a little slender of frame, but guy's a turnover magnet. Then there's Gunnar Helm, a tight end. We've talked a lot about potential 2 tight end sets in this Ben Johnson offense. So Gunnar Helm is a possible name. And then there's Jaden Blue, running back. And this is a smaller guy, but lightning in a bottle, ladies and gentlemen. I'm talking about there's various reports from his pro day. A few different clocks got him on his 40 time between a 4.25 and a 4.29. Jesus, come on, y'all. That boy is fast. That boy is a running fool. But just imagine some of the possibilities, some of the things that Ben Johnson can do with someone like that in his offense. Even if the Bears were to select a running back in the higher rounds, first or second round, Jaden Blue is somebody that they could potentially still pick up in the later rounds, is at worst a return man, and at best a dynamo in this offense. Somebody like that with that kind of speed and a madman calling plays like Ben Johnson, he could get downright diabolical, ladies and gentlemen. So watch out for that name. But another school I mentioned, Michigan, University of Michigan. Bears were there to visit, and some of the names that could possibly come off the board from the Michigan Wolverines, potentially to the Bears, would be defensive tackle Mason Graham, who is probably one of my favorite players in this draft, who I doubt will fall. But if he were to fall to 10, I think the Bears should run up and make that pick with a mask. Then there's cornerback Will Johnson. Then there's defensive tackle Kenneth Grant, who is also a guy that I am a fan of. Big, stout run defender. This guy already is very stout against the run, but he has the potential to become a pass rusher. And in him, with a Gervon Dexter, I think your future is bright. And you got veterans like Andrew Billings and Grady Jarrett to help work with these young guys. I think your future will be bright with a name like Kenneth Grant. Plus, the kid is from Maryville, Indiana, so close to home. Then there's tight end Colston Loveland. Again, double tight end sets is a strong possibility for this Ben Johnson offense. And Colston Loveland, this guy is probably the number 2 tight end in this draft behind Penn State's Tyler Warren. So watch out for that name. And then there's Josiah Stewart, a defensive end who's probably a little bit more raw. I doubt a possibility for the Bears, but you never know. Maybe a late round possibility. So yeah, I like to have that last comment stricken from the record books. I'm just playing. But and then there's Ohio State and the defending national champions, the Ohio State Buckeyes, or should I say the reigning national champion, Ohio State Buckeyes. So you know there's some heavy hitters at this pro day. And of course, the Bears were there in full. But some possible names from there that they could be looking at. Josh Simmons, offensive tackle. Jack Sawyer, defensive end. And Josh Simmons, might I add, is coming off of, I believe it was a torn patella tendon injury. So big time injury, but it's good to see him get a workout in. That was a pleasant sight. But Jack Sawyer, defensive end, who is another guy that I like. He had double-digit sacks, I believe. He goes about somewhere in the range of 6'4", 6'5", 260 pounds, so a good fit for the Dennis Allen scheme. And there's wide receiver Emeka Egbuka, who I doubt will be in the Bears' range. He'll probably go in the first round, but much later than 10. Maybe if the Bears trade back, Egbuka is a slot receiver. So could be a potential name to watch if they trade back. But in addition to him, Tyleik Williams, defensive tackle, another run stuffer. And there's JT Tuimoloau, defensive end, another big guy that will fit in the scheme. 6'4", 6'5", 265, double-digit sacks a year last season. Then there's running back TreVeyon Henderson, who was one of my favorites. Now, I think the Bears are probably going to go after more of a bruising running back, and Henderson is more of your lightning guy. But TreVeyon Henderson is a dynamic running back, I think. 7 yards a carry in a split backfield, with running back Quinshon Judkins, who was also in attendance. But then there was also offensive tackle Donovan Jackson, and then safety Lathan Ransom. So a lot of potential names on that Ohio State roster for the Bears. Pretty much everybody I named could potentially become a Bear and defending champs or reigning national champs. So you like to have someone like that on your roster. But then Boise State. Now this one is interesting because there's so much talk about Ashton Jeanty to the Bears, but potentially. But what was interesting is only one representative was there from the Bears, a scout. He was the only representation. And also something to note that all 32 teams had some kind of rep there to see Ashton Jeanty's workout. And there's reports that he had meetings with the Saints and the Raiders at this time as well, which is something to note. Last year, if you remember, when the Bears knew that Caleb Williams was the guy, that's who they took out to dinner. So interesting to note that they were not in attendance there. They just sent one scout. Now, I wouldn't read a whole lot into that. It could be smoke screens, maybe because I believe that was the same day as the Ohio State workout. So, you're probably going to send more people to the Ohio State workout because there was a lot more to watch. Whereas Jeanty, you pretty much know what you have. So I wouldn't put too much stock into that, but that is something that's interesting. And the fact that the Saints and the Raiders both had additional meetings with him at the pro day shows some interest there. So Bears fans, prepare yourselves for the possibility that he might be gone before 10, but we shall see. That also could be a reason why the Bears didn't send too many people there, because they know he might not be there. So that's something to think about. But yeah, a lot going on with these pro days. Oh, and by the way, make sure you guys hit that like button and subscribe as well if you haven't already. Appreciate it. Help a brother out. But in addition to the pro days, we got some top 30 visits. Whether they've happened already or are scheduled to happen, these are so far the reported scheduled top 30 visits for the Bears. There's offensive tackle Josh Conerly from Oregon, running back Ashton Jeanty. So that's a good thing that they have him scheduled to come into Chicago. So that's why I say don't put a whole lot of stock in the fact that they didn't send a huge amount of representatives to Boise State, because the kid is coming into their facility. Then there's offensive lineman Will Campbell from LSU, linebacker Nick Martin from Oklahoma State, running back Brashard Smith, SMU, who wowed at the combine running a 4.32, 4.37, somewhere in that range. Another speed guy. And then there's wide receiver Isaiah Bond from Texas, who Bears were at his pro day. And to see that he is on the top 30 list to come to Chicago shows a great amount of interest. So that is a name to watch, Isaiah Bond. Another speed guy. I want to say around a 4.34-ish. But what's interesting about this top 30 list so far, Ashton Jeanty and Will Campbell are probably the only first round names, the only potential top 10 pick names. So have they narrowed it down to these two guys? Or will the list get bigger? This is something to watch, and we will definitely be reporting on it when we hear about it. You dig? But moving on, the Bears running back coach Eric Bieniemy. He was a guest on the Bears Etc. podcast, the team podcast, and he dropped a quote that has everybody talking. And he said, and I quote, "Now, more than anything, we've got to make sure that he understands that he can find 4.5 yards between tackles, but also hit the home run when he needs to." And he was, of course, talking about running back DeAndre Swift, who averaged a career low 3.8 yards a carry last season, and only 4 runs that went for more than 20 yards. That's kind of crazy, right? For your $30 million running back. So with all of the changes to the offensive line, there's some real pressure on Swift, y'all. He's got to produce this year. And that's a big reason why the Bears are likely to take a running back at some point in this draft to either complement or maybe even potentially replace Swift at some point. And also, in addition to that, some other news, the Bears add 2 strength and conditioning coaches, ladies and gentlemen. Richard Langford and Mark Philippi. I probably butchered that, but you get the gist. But Langford, he had been a strength and conditioning coach for the U.S. Tennis Association since 2018. In addition, he's also done it in the league as well for 2 seasons with the Minnesota Vikings. And he played for the Eagles, the Chiefs, and the Lions as well. Now, Philippi is interesting because this is his first NFL stint, but he is experienced as a strength and conditioning coach, having owned and operated the Philippi Sports Institute in Las Vegas since 2007, where they train Olympic, pro, and youth athletes. And he spent 15 years as the director of strength and conditioning for UNLV. In addition to that, he even took first place in the 1996 World Drug-Free Powerlifting Championship. And he won the title of America's Strongest Man in 1997. How about that, ladies and gentlemen? We got the cock diesel guy is now the strength and conditioning coach for the Bears. So hopefully strength is going to be a strength. You dig? But y'all, please, like I said, drop a like and subscribe if y'all haven't already. We definitely appreciate it. And you know, with this being a fresh new channel, we're trying to get on that road to 50 so we can go live for the draft and kick it with you guys. So please, please, please help us get that number up. Help run it up. Tell your people about us. And come on and kick it with us. But I appreciate y'all kicking it with little old me today, y'all. Hopefully y'all enjoyed yourself, learned a little something new. And as always, from us here at the CHI Go Bears, ladies and gentlemen, we love y'all. And I'm out. Peace.